All right, you guys, welcome back into another One Piece video. Today we have something very special in store for us. Yes, that is right. If you know me, you know that there's nothing I love more than a good old poll discussion. So here over on the community tab, I've been posting polls, I'd say almost every single day for the past week. Break week has been tough, man, you know. There's nothing to talk about in regards to One Piece minus the latest chapter. So I just threw a lot of polls up, and we're going to go through that in all of the answers, all the comments, and talk about all the options. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. And the first couple ones are, of course, about Loki. Because let's be real, Loki is the talk of the town. There's so much mystery surrounding him. How does he fight? What do his eyes do? What the hell is going on with this devil fruit? What's going to happen to him after Elbaf? There's so much around him. So I did throw up 3 polls regarding that. First up, I just had to peel off the band-aid and ask the question, but did Loki actually kill King Harald? So the poll is very split on this one, as you can see. We have about 1,700 votes. And 55% of people are saying, yes, Loki did kill his dad, whereas 45% say, no, he did not. So, personally, it's a tough one. I don't really have a clear-cut answer on this. I wish I included a third option saying, I don't know. But I feel like a lot of people just kind of go towards that one. So, yes, I did just split into yes and no. And if I had to pick a side right here, right now, I would say yes. He did kill his dad. So going into the comments, right? Because I do want to see what people have to say about this. Also, I threw this here too. This is under the assumption that King Harald didn't just get one-tapped by the guards. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think that would really suck. Like imagine all this buildup for King Harald, and then he just dies to 5 spears into the chest, which would kill most people in One Piece. But this is King Harald we're talking about. Right? If Whitebeard can take multiple stabs, multiple gunshots, I'd like to imagine that King Harald would not die to a couple of spears right away. Maybe he survives it, maybe he takes a couple more spears and then he dies, but I doubt the guards killed him ASAP. So, this comment says, if Loki was the killer, then Diddy is actually innocent, alright? The non-manga readers clicked yes. Well, no, I don't see that. I see what they mean, because we heard that, Loki killed his dad, and then we have the whole thing where Loki was potentially framed for it. But there is a lot of nuance there, right? Loki described this day as an awful day. Yes, it's because his dad died, but we don't know what's going on with his dad. There are a lot of theories out there that are saying that his dad is getting Domi reversied. Imu has taken control over his dad, or maybe his dad asked Loki to kill him. There's a lot of weirdness surrounding this whole incident. So I don't personally think it's a clear-cut answer. Also, look at that. The votes jumped up to 2.3K. Pretty nuts, right? What was that? Like the span of 2 minutes? I think I just never refreshed the page, but yeah, 2,300 votes. And the results are still the same. That's kind of interesting. Look at that. The percentages did not change one bit. But yeah, there's just so much weirdness around this. Like, first up, somebody locked the doors after Loki and Jarl came in. Who did that? Why did they do it? Why did the guards die? Did Loki kill all the guards? Or did King Harald kill the guards? Or was there a third party in that room? And then who the hell went to the Devil Fruit room as well? Who went down to the treasury? I just personally feel like there's too much we don't know about yet to actually say, the answer is obviously no, or the answer is obviously yes. Right? Personally, like I said, if I had to pick one, I'd say that Loki had to kill his dad, and that his dad did go on some sort of rampage. Whether it was of his own volition, or whether or not, like, a Holy Knight or Imu controlled him, we don't know that yet. And the reason why I lean towards yes is because of Jarl and the sword in his head. Because if you look closely at the sword in Jarl's head, which, can I just pull it up real quick? But if you look at the sword in Jarl's head, it's actually the same sword that King Harald has in his portrait, and it's also the same sword that we see in the flashback. I don't know if this will pull up properly, but yeah, just look at his head. Wait, damn, no pictures of his head? Here we go. You can look at the hilt of the blade, the guard of the blade, and it's all pretty one-to-one. And let's pull up King Harald when he was younger, because I think we see his blade in that first panel. King Harald young. What do we got? Here we go. Yeah. Look at his sword right there. Look at the guard on that sword. It is pretty much identical to what we see in Jarl's head. And then, of course, we have the photo, and we see that sword again there as well. So I do think that King Harald is the one who plunged the blade into Jarl, and then maybe to save King Harald, that is when Loki stepped in and he had to have killed his dad. Of course, that doesn't have to be the case. I just kind of brought that point up to show that there's a lot of weirdness surrounding this situation. Let's look at the other comments. I feel like Harald was probably possessed, and so Loki had to put him down. I don't think he's actually dead, though. I think Loki's conquerors slowed Harald's regen down to a crawl, and they buried him thinking that he was dead. He later revived and fled the island in shame, thinking he had killed his good friend Jarl. He and Jarl are the friends who thought each other were dead that Shanks talked about. So Shanks' line, if I recall correctly, might have to check the Raws for this one, but I believe Shanks was referring to himself, like he thought that they were dead, not that the two people thought that they were dead, if that makes sense. What are the comments? I like it. Nice one. Read the manga, you're dead wrong. He was framed. He saw it and who did it, but didn't at all attack his father. This is like a theory, though. I think there's a good chance that he was framed, but to say outright that he didn't attack his father when there's a whole side to that story we haven't seen yet, and of course Oda cut away and he just showed the guards dying and, you know, people yelling for help, I think there's a lot there that we don't know. I do still think there's a third party involved and that they had to do with King Harald's death, but to outright say that, you know, Loki didn't attack his dad at all, like outright, we're still missing that info. My guy's going crazy with the polls. I fuck with it for real, though, yeah. Y'all clearly haven't read the manga. Loki didn't kill his father, guys. He was framed. Which, like I said, is still a theory. It's not confirmed. It's a good theory. I think there's a lot of things that lead towards it, but it's not in the manga yet, though. That hasn't been depicted. You know, this is just an assumption. This one says, yes, but not for bad intentions. I bet Loki killed King Harald out of mercy. I can see that. Maybe King Harald was going berserk and he said, hey, Loki, put me down before I kill more guards, before I kill Jarl and stab him a second time. This one says, doesn't matter to me. Okay, he's just here for the ride. I think he did because I believe he said to his brother, you don't believe I killed our father in cold blood, like the rest, do you? Or something like that. But the emphasis on in cold blood as if he did, but he didn't want to. Yeah, I remember that line. I forgot if that was just TCB or Viz, but yeah, I do remember that line specifically. All right, and he has 3 replies here. Let's see them. Oh, it's this guy again. Is he posting this under like everybody who says that Loki did kill King Harald? He says, where does it say this exactly? He doesn't respond yet, which, of course, it was only an hour ago. He says, I think you need to go reread, because 1, what would be the point of this post if it was confirmed he didn't kill his dad? And 2, in chapter 1143, oh, look at that. He has the chapter link right there, man. Loki says exactly what I said, and I know the panel you're talking about, but Harald isn't dead in that, so Loki could have killed the guards, then quickly realized they were in the right, and Harald needed to be put down for whatever reason. Exactly. Look at that. Common sense coming right into it. You know, implied that Loki could have been framed. I still think he could be framed, but he also could have just still killed his father. Nothing is confirmed yet. And, you know, going back to the poll, that does explain why this is so split, right? 2,000, let me see. Can I refresh the page, actually? 2,400? Yeah, look at that. 2,400 votes, and it's pretty 50-50. So, going back down, where did we leave off? Right here? We now know that his guards wore helmets with horns, so I don't think they got turned. I don't think either had gone turned. I think there was a coup planned by the elders because Harald was doing too much. Or maybe the elders got turned and killed him. I don't know. All I know is whatever the hell is in the Heaven Realm is going to be a real big shock. Yep, I agree. Also, as far as the guards go, if I recall correctly, they didn't wear helmets with horns. I believe some of them did just have ancient giant blood. I think they even said that most giants in Elbaf have ancient giant blood, but it's just diluted. So some have horns, some don't have horns. A great example would be Joanna, one of the kids that is currently being led by St. Somers. She has horns and she's a kid. So I do not think the guards simply had helmets with horns. I think they're actually just ancient giants. You know, not like 100% like Loki, but, you know, they could be like 30%, 20%, 15%, doesn't really matter. This one says, yeah, but he was probably forced to do so. Let me guess. Wait. Is it that guy? It is, dude. He's like a phantom haunting every comment. That's crazy. This one says, they told us everything bad in Elbaf got chalked up to Loki, no? Isn't part of the point of all this going to be that Loki gets blamed for everything since birth on Elbaf? So it's the belief system rather than actual fact that accounts for people blaming Loki. I'm still in the Loki gets framed camp because he's legit treated unfairly before he even does anything to everyone. Yes. The thing is, too, I think there's a realm where Loki has a really good reason to kill his father, but they don't want to hear it. So in that sense, he gets framed, right? He still kills his dad, but it's a choice that most normal people would have made. But yeah, there we have it. That is the Loki poll. So now let's see here. I got a couple of more polls as well. Oh, here we go. This one is about Loki's devil fruit. I like this one. You know, just thinking about Loki having a devil fruit, I do wonder how crazy Oda's going to get with it. So I just simply asked, like, what type of devil fruit does he have? Option 1 was Logia. Paramecia was second. Zoan was the third option. And then the last option, just to play devil's advocate, I said no devil fruit, and that he's simply lying about it. So, as it stands right now, 70% of people believe that Loki does have a devil fruit, and only 30% do not think he has one. So, just going over these options real quick, Logia is a tough one, because I feel like there's not a lot of elements or things out there that Oda can actually bring into the story. Like, just cook up right now. You guys, here's a fun activity to do at home, but come up with 3 Logias. Like, I'm sure you can, but like off the top of your head, 3 Logias. Like, I'm looking around my room right now. I mean, we have the forest no Mi, so it can get kind of, you know, obtuse. So I guess I could say like the wall no Mi, and the guy just becomes a wall. I don't know, that doesn't make sense, right? I mean, the island is a paramecia, so yeah, that wouldn't fit. We do have Karasu with the soot, so I guess we could go with ash. We can't have water because that'd be kind of crazy. Dude, a water Logia? Woo! Actually, a water Logia would be so tough. They'd straight up be a counter to all devil fruit users, just entrapping people in water, hitting them with water, and then if you could mix in seawater, oh my god. Yeah, that'd be crazy. But I don't think Oda would do that. I'm sure Oda's thought about it. Like, maybe that's what Emu has. You know, people like doing the whole Emu in reverse is Umi thing, which means sea in Japanese. So maybe Emu has the water Logia or just water powers, but man, a water no Mi. That'd be busted. That's a crazy devil fruit. So we have ash, we have water. I'm trying to think about one more. Oh, here's a little bit of a throwback, but what about the plasma no Mi? I say throwback because there was an era where a lot of people were predicting Logias, and the plasma no Mi got brought up a couple of times. I remember seeing a lot of those theories. So yeah, plasma would be a pretty decent one. Very broken, mind you, very broken. But yeah, Logias are just tough, brother. You know, after the admirals, it's like, okay, where do we go now, right? We have Caribou with swamp, which is, again, kind of obtuse, right? Swamp, mud. All right. We have Monet with the snow. I feel like Oda covered a lot of bases already. So whatever he brings in that is a Logia, it's like, what is it going to be, right? So next up, Paramecia. It's kind of funny looking at this poll, right? Logia is the lowest, Paramecia is second, and then Zoan third. So yeah, Paramecia is second. I like this. You know, I think it's fun because we had Gunko use a Paramecia, the Arrow no Mi, and she was really crafty with it, right? Usually, pre-time skip, if you were to think about a character with the Arrow no Mi, they'd maybe just do like arrows here or there. They stab you with arrows and they're pretty much done. But Gunko has shown us a new level of mastery when it comes to Paramecias. The way she's able to create giant boots, the way she's able to speed herself up with the arrows, the way she's deflecting attacks, the way she creates a giant bird that can fly up to the sun realm. Paramecias, I think, are on the come up. You know, do not sleep on the Paramecia abilities. You know, they might seem mundane at first, but they're kind of crazy. I mean, hell, even Saint Somers has a Paramecia, and he's kind of doing some work too, right? With his invisible thorns, with his thorn dragon. Or is it a thorn snake? I think it's a snake, but somebody called it a dragon at one point, so I kind of just went with that for a little bit. But yeah, I think Paramecias are really cool. You know, Luffy was a Paramecia for the longest time until he was revealed as Sun God Nika. So yeah, I want to see more Paramecias in here, man. But of course, the most popular Devil Fruit choice is the Zone class. You know, we didn't get enough back in Wano. People do want a mythical Zoan, and I can't blame them, man. I feel like Zoans have so much versatility. We talked about versatility with the Paramecias, but brother, mythical Zoans? Bro, they're essentially Paramecias at heart that can transform. I mean, look at Luffy, right? Over here stretching, creating things out of his hair, bouncing around. He kind of has like this Toon Force-esque ability. Like, my god. And then Kaido, he's a giant flying dragon that can use wind slashes. He can shoot fireballs. And then you got Marco on the other hand, who he's over here regenerating, healing his battlefield allies. Like, oh my god, yeah. Zoans can go absolutely nuts. And it's funny because I feel like I should have put another category here, but of course, you know, YouTube polls, you know, they cap you off at 4. But I wish I could have put Mythical Zoan as another category, just to see the difference. Because I feel like if I put Mythical Zoan, Zoans would get slaughtered. I think everybody who voted for Zoan unironically actually wanted a Mythical Zoan. So now for the last option on this poll, we do have no Devil Fruit, and that Loki simply lied about eating it. Personally, I do find myself in this last camp. You know, Loki is a trickster, he's a liar, and kind of like what a lot of people echoed back in this poll, he got framed for a lot of things. So until we actually see Loki whip out Devil Fruit powers, I'm pretty iffy on this one. And the tough part is that I would have believed that Loki had a Devil Fruit, if not for what we saw 2 chapters back, where we saw some random silhouette guy show up to the treasury room and say, oh, this must be the legendary Devil Fruit of Elbaf. That wasn't Loki. Right? That was not Loki. Could Loki have fought that guy later and killed him and ate the Devil Fruit? Yes. Could there have been a second Devil Fruit in that room? Yes. But that's the thing. We just don't know. You know, going back to this poll, we just don't know, man. There's a lot still left up to the imagination. There's still a lot of wiggle room for Oda to play around with. So I do tend to lean towards this 4th option where Loki might not have a Devil Fruit. And another thing that's really odd about the whole Elbaf Devil Fruit discussion is the timeline. You know, forgive me if I get this wrong. It's a break week. You know, not well versed in One Piece during break weeks, but the Devil Fruit was taken 14 years ago. And then just 1 year later, that is when Shanks found the Gumu Gumu no Mi being carried by world government ship. It's like the timeline's right there to say that the Elbaf Devil Fruit was the Gumu Gumu no Mi, but I just don't know. Like, if that's the case, then what does Loki have? Does he have anything at all? Did he just simply take the blame for it? I do think there are a lot of questions here, but, you know, if I had to go and pick a Devil Fruit, right? If I had to forsake the no Devil Fruit option, personally, I think I lean towards Paramecia, man. I don't know, dude. We don't have enough Paramecias in the story. You could say the same about Logias, but I do want a Paramecia come back. I do think I'm wrong when I say there's not a lot of Paramecias, but we don't have a lot of prominent Paramecias in the story. I think that's a better way to word it. Right? When you look at all the enemies we fought recently, not a lot have Paramecias. We just started getting them back here in Elbaf, so why not continue the train, brother? So let's look at some of the comments. This one says Mythical Zone. Look at that. Mythical Zone. I called it, dude. People wanted the Mythical Zone category. Man, I should have just eliminated Logia. I don't know. No. Shouts to Logia, man. I love Logias. It's just really hard to come up with a new one. But I will say this, though. If Loki was a Logia, imagine if he could awaken. You know, I thought Kizaru back on Egghead was going to be the first awakened Logia we see in the series, but it didn't happen. You know, so now where do we place our bets? If we had to see the first awakened Logia in the canon story, where would you go? Is that going to go to Akainu? Is it going to go to Kuzan? Is it going to go to Loki's hypothetical here? I'm not too sure, right? If it wasn't Kizaru, man, I just don't know. I don't think it's going to be Green Bull. I feel like Green Bull's too new to give the Logia Awakening card to. If I had to put my money on somebody, I'd say Kainu might take that one at this point. Or maybe Sabo. Yeah, wait a minute. If Sabo's up in the Holy Land right now, if the Revs are attacking Marie Joie, maybe Sabo's the first to awaken. Oh yeah, let me see. What are the replies? I used to be on the Fenrir theory, but since the eyes, the World Serpent just jumps out now. Regardless, hyped as hell. I like that. Yeah, I mean, I do like the World Serpent route, but the thing is that the eyes shouldn't have anything to do with this Devil Fruit. Like they're two separate things. That's where I kind of draw the line with the World Serpent. Like, I think he could have World Serpent powers, but I think that might just come from the eyes, though. This one says what this person said, and this person says, there are too many mythical zones right now. I hope Oda does something different with Loki. Yeah, we have been chilling with a lot of mythical transformations. I mean, we had Kaido, we had Luffy, and then they are mythical, but they might not be devil fruits. But of course, we have the Gorosei. We also have Shamrock's sword. And, you know, people say, oh, that's not a lot, Sai. But the thing is that the Gorosei are like 5 individual transformations, right? Mythical ones at that. And then, of course, you know, discounting the mythical ones, we had a lot of Zoans in general, dude. In Egghead, brother, you know, forget the Gorosei, forget Luffy for a minute. We got Rob Lucci, we got Kaku, we got Stussy, and then we saw that Oda brought back CP0, and Jabra's included in that. And then going over to Wano, damn near all the Tobiropo were Zoans, man. I don't have Zoan fatigue, personally, because I think Zoans are fun. But I do hope Oda does something different, but I don't know if he will. Because ever since he introduced Sun God Nika, and ever since the mural in the Harley text, he introduced more mythical gods that could make a reappearance. Right? The Sun God, Luffy, he was just one of them. We still have the Rain God, the Earth God, the Forest God, you know, other gods that aren't depicted in the Harley text in the mural. So, you know, if Loki ends up being one of those gods, I do think that'd be kind of cool. And Oda could get kind of wacky with it too, right? I mean, Sun God Nika's wacky. This one says, if he didn't have some kind of fruit, he has no reason to care about the shackle. Which is true. You know, that is one thing to disprove the no option, is that Loki is currently chained up to Sea Stone. Oh my god, what the heck? 14 replies, huh? 14 replies, that's crazy. Okay, let me guess what these are about. And I'm going to guess it based off of what I'm going to talk about because of this comment. But right now, I do still think being shackled up is a big detriment when you're about to go to battle. And not just that too, but, you know, one thing that we heard is that Zoro, when they first came down here to see Loki, Zoro said, oh, you know, we're going to uncuff him, but let's leave his ankle cuff on. That is what Zoro said. But that's not exactly what happened, because if you go back to the last chapter, right before we start the flashback, not only does Loki still have his ankle cuff on, but his hand is also cuffed as well, and it looks like it's actually still chained to the tree. So it's not just like, oh, you know, we have Sea Stone on him and he can move around freely. No, no, no. It looks like the chains and the Sea Stone connect him to the tree still. So he needs it removed if he wants to fight or leave the underworld. Or at least that's my assumption, right? So it could still be a Devil Fruit thing, right? I think that's the most logical route. But I can see an argument saying that Loki doesn't have a Devil Fruit and he just simply wants to leave the underworld and he can't because he's chained. All right, so let's see what the comments are all about. 14 replies is nuts. It's still Sea Stone shackles. You can't break those. Why would he care about one on his foot? He could just ignore it if he has no Devil Fruit. Okay, yeah. See, this is because of the Zoro line, man. Zoro, he kind of played us, right? I didn't realize Loki's shackling situation until just recently. This one says, you can break them if you know Ryuo, Internal Destruction. It's just impossible for Devil Fruit users because they're drained of their energy, thus they can't use haki. Is that confirmed? Yeah, funny enough, I had this debate, I'd say about a year ago, and it's really odd. So if you guys want to weigh in on this one, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions or your takes on it. But if I recall correctly, Luffy did not destroy Sea Stone with the Ryuo. What he destroyed was the steel collars that were on him, Hyogoro, and Yamato. And that's not exactly the same. And we know this, at least if I recall correctly, because Queen released Luffy's Sea Stone shackles back in Udon Prison. So, yes, the Sea Stone wasn't an issue by that point. And the reason why he didn't use his Devil Fruit after being released from Sea Stone is because he was training his Ryuo. And that is how he ended up breaking his steel collar. I think they do call it steel verbatim too, right? They say Sea Stone cuffs and then steel collars. So I think there is a distinction there. I could be wrong. This is something that I've heard so many people debate about. And, you know, if I'm wrong, man, let me know. Let me know. And this one says, why doesn't Garp get free from the shackles put on him by the Blackbeard Pirates? This is a little bit different. You know, if I recall correct, I keep on saying, if I recall correctly, right, it's been a minute, but when we saw Garp, wasn't he like this? Like, I don't think he could, like, actually break the cuffs. I mean, unless he can just exude Ryuo, that'd be a little bit crazy. But yeah, I think Garp was, like, super chained up, man. Garp, dude, he can't even breathe with those shackles on. This one says he's injured and has no energy. Could be psychological. Huh. Could be psychological. Like, he thinks he has a Devil Fruit, but he doesn't. So it's like a placebo effect, where he's like, I'm being weakened, but it doesn't actually exist. That'd be kind of funny. See, this sounds like a One Piece gag, right? A character thinks they have a Devil Fruit, but they actually don't. But they're nerfed by Sea Stone because they believe they have one. Dude, this is like early One Piece stuff right here. You know, I could see this in the pre-time skip, man. That one says, no, you can't. None of those chains that were broken with Ryuo were sea stone. There we go. This says, because it's still chained, he can't leave. Come on, dude, really? Garp can't use Pirate King level advanced Conquer Sagi to break through a dozen chains? These guys are known to destroy literal countries and possibly even continents. If we scale Garp to Whitebeard, but he can't break through a few chains, ... When you have a hole through your heart and you just fought a Yonko crew alone, you need time and energy to recover. Yeah, I think this is very logical, right? This devolved into a Garp conversation somehow. But yeah, I think this is the most logical thing. Like, he's still injured. Going back to that panel of Garp, hopefully I pulled it up here if I'm, doing my due diligence. But I think Garp was still bleeding in that panel even. And then if he does break out and he's not at full HP, what's the next move? Blackbeard is home. Beforehand, he fought Kuzan, Shiryu, and, all these guys, and he caught them off guard. They didn't know that Garp would come to the island, but he did. But now that they know that Garp is here, now that the whole Blackbeard force is essentially here at their home base, if Garp were to break out, without Sword by his side, by the way, I think it would just be bad news, Blue's Clues. Simple as that. This one I did give a heart emoji to because I thought it was kind of funny. They say he's got the fent fruit. Yeah. Loki's on that fentanyl, man. That's why he's in the underworld. This one says Loki is going to have the first awakened Logia in the show. Come back when y'all catch up. Dude, if Loki is the first character that awakens a Logia, I'd be a little bit salty. I wouldn't hate it. Oh, voice crack. I wouldn't hate it. But I'd be a little bit salty that it doesn't go to one of the 3 OG admirals. That's going to be another poll. That's going to be another poll. Who do you want to awaken a Logia first? Tomorrow's poll. I've got that written down. This one says he has the Sun Logia. I'm calling it now. He can become a star. That's kind of sick. I don't mind that, actually. Sun Logia. And that's why he calls himself the Sun God. Well, to be fair, Loki calling himself the Sun God, they said that is what all giants kind of do, right? They all want to be their own sun god. And then there's like different depictions of the sun god, etc., etc. I don't have to repeat that, but yeah, this would be kind of fun. A nice callback. He has the rubber fruit we thought Luffy had. This idea is tough. On one end, I think this would be a lot of fun if Loki did have the Gomu Gomu no Mi. But on the other hand, back on Egghead Island, Vegapunk said that the Gomu Gomu no Mi does not exist in the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia book. I've seen people saying that, oh, that's because it's been hidden in Elbaf the entire time, but that's kind of like another rabbit hole, we'd have to go down. This one says, I like the idea that either he doesn't have one, or that it was given to Ragnir. Oh, given to his hammer. That's not bad. I like the idea that Loki is so committed to the Devil Fruit ruse that he insists the Sea Stone cuff on his ankle to be removed, even though it's essentially an accessory that doesn't hinder him a bit. That said, I think someone would have seen through it by now, particularly Scopper. If Loki were lying about this, he'd be like the inverse of Usopp, who frequently lies to conceal his weakness. If it truly took the whole nation of Elbaf to detain Loki and he doesn't even have a devil fruit, that'd just be another flex for him. Yeah, a major flex. A super flex even. Right? I do have a lot of respect, personally, for characters that do not have devil fruits. Characters like Garp. Characters like Kobe. Roger. Like, my god, dude. The whole, like, haki transcends all thing. Yeah, some people don't like that, but I think it's a lot of fun, Straight willpower and gym sessions are freaking carrying these guys. My god. This one says, it's probably a mythical Zoan, but I think a new Logi would be so cool. Logis are so cool, and a character as important and powerful as Loki having one would be amazing. Yes. Like I said, the tough part is coming up with the new Logia, right? That's the tough part. If he's joining the crew, he needs a fruit that helps him fit on the damn ship. Yep, I've seen people saying the shrink no Mi, which, the shrink no Mi, that'd be interesting, but I feel like that'd be a little bit underwhelming. This whole time, they're hyping up Loki's devil fruit, and if it's the shrink no Mi, I don't know. It would be kind of nuts. It's like Ant-Man, right? He's just shrinking, guys. He's going to climb up and expand. Outside of that, though, a mythical Zoan could also make this work. Like maybe his hybrid form makes him a lot smaller. Maybe his Zoan form makes him a lot smaller. So it doesn't have to be like the shrink fruit. That's just an idea I heard earlier. This one says, I want Oda to explore more types of devil fruit transformations rather than spamming Zoans over and over. Logia could explain him being able to change his size to fit on the ship. If not Logia, probably mythical Zoan or some kind. He definitely has a devil fruit since the sea stone weakened him. Can't be a Logia. Harden said in Dressrosa that no giant has eaten one before, and he'd be the first giant if he got the Mera no Mi. Oh, did he say that? Damn. I'm currently rewatching One Piece. I'm not at Dressrosa yet, but I'll keep an eye out for that one right there. It's most likely a mythical Zoan, but I would love a OP Paramecia, yes. If he's joining the crew, I would want him to have a Logia, perhaps a literal sun fruit or solar fruit, where he can create solar flares and heat-based lighting. Bro, that'd be so broken. Like, it's funny, right? Thinking about Loki joining the crew, we have more or less always had the dynamic where Luffy's the strongest, and then it's Zoro, and then it's Sanji. Like, that's always been the case. If Loki joins, and this guy has a freaking Sun Logia, my God. He would throw so many wrenches in the crew. If he's not joining the crew, then I'd want him to have a mythical Zoan. My favorite candidate that I've heard some people throw out would be the Quetzalcoatl fruit. Oh man, I feel like I butchered that name. But yeah, I've seen a lot of people throwing around that Aztec dragon, and I like that. It's funny because I talked about this beforehand, but Quetzalcoatl, this was actually one of the main devil fruit transformations that people thought Dragon had for the longest time. Not like the theory's been disproven by any means, but I do think it's a lot of fun to talk about the Quetzalcoatl. And, you know, speaking about this being a fan theory, one big fan theory that's been floating around the community for decades was Blackbeard having the Cerberus Devil Fruit. And then guess what? The Cerberus transformation went to Shamrock's sword. So, you know, that popular fan theory just came back around. It was wrong, right? Blackbeard didn't have it, but it does exist. The Cerberus transformation is out there. So honestly, brother, I would love a Quetzalcoatl devil fruit. So going on to the next one, they say, I'm thinking an illusion type devil fruit. He can make people see and feel things that aren't there. Yes, I like this. Definitely would fit the Loki name, the Loki lore. And this power right here, brother, it just reminds me of Aizen. And Aizen is a great character from Bleach, man. So now on to the next poll. Let's see here. What do we got? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Loki's eyes. What kind of powers do you think Loki gained from his eyes? So, obviously, YouTube polls, I can only put 4 options here, and I can only type so much. But the first option was optical powers - illusions. Second option would be he can transform into a monster. Third is that he would get devil fruit type powers. I couldn't really elaborate on this one, but anything wacky, anything weird. And then, of course, the last option is no powers at all. So if you were to just look at this right here, no powers at all is winning, but technically, these options up here are all powers. So 38% of people think that he has no powers, but that also means that 62% of people do think that Loki will get some sort of powers from his eyes. So just talking about the powers real quick. When I think about optical powers, of course, I think about laser beams coming out of his eyes. I think about illusions, things like the Sharingan even. I think there's a lot of optical powers that could work here. Maybe he even has third eye tribe powers where he can see the poneglyphs. He could read ancient texts at a glance. I think that would fit all under this right here. As far as the illusions go, it kind of ties back to what the guy said about the devil fruit being illusion-based. Maybe there's a chance that whatever he thinks of, he can bring to life, kind of like Killingham, but maybe that'll be a little bit redundant, so Oda won't do that. As far as transforming goes, I do lean towards this one. If he were to have a power, I think it'd be a transformation, and this is where I think the world serpent idea could come back in. Because he does have those snake eyes, man. Those snake eyes are kind of crazy. I do think the shape of his eyes are telling on what he could do. So third up, the devil fruit powers, you know, anything like the Gumma Gumma no Mi. Maybe he has fire-based abilities. This is a hard one because I feel like this wouldn't make sense. Like, oh, his eyes are special, so now he has Paramecia abilities. Like, that world could exist, but I'm just really hesitant to go there. Like, unless it's like eye powers, which would fall under the first category, I just don't know what it would be. And then, of course, no powers at all. And that would just mean that his eyes are a decoration. His eyes cannot do anything. It is just a genetic freakout. So let's see what people are saying in the comments section. Let's see if they're staying civil down here. This one says, you gotta give us that all right montage and next spoiler video sigh. Hey, I do that every video. This one says, praying to every celestial being that Oda doesn't give him eye powers. Yeah, some people don't want it, man. You know, some people do not want One Piece to slowly turn into like other animes, because eye powers are like a common trope, right? I typically mainly bring up Naruto, because that's the most prominent use case, right? The Sharingan, Mangekyo Sharingan, the Rinnegan, the Byakugan, all those Gans, they're out there. So Naruto kind of has a monopoly on those, but aside from that, man, a lot of animes do tend to have eye powers. Like just thinking about Mushoku Tensei, for example, Rudeus can see, I think, like 2 seconds into the future because of his eyes. And then going over to Bleach. Does Bleach have eye powers? Not necessarily, no. Bleach doesn't have any eye powers. There's like one Espada that has these crazy eyes that can make you stay in place, which I guess would fall under an eye power, right? That's an optical power. But yeah, like every anime does it. So I can see why people are pretty sour about the idea of eye powers. What do the comments say? But why? In my opinion, it's too much. We just got introduced to potentially the final boss, and they have, without a doubt, the most complex power so far in the series. And now, we're getting on top of that eye powers. Why? Loki already has Ancient Giant Blood, more than likely has Conqueror's Haki too, plus, hopefully, an OP Devil Fruit. It would throw off so much of the power system Oda has already built up. This is a good response. Yeah, I think this is funny. Like, I'm pretty mixed on this one. I don't really have, like, a solid opinion. On one end, it's like, well, we have so much already. What's one more? And then on another end, it's like, well, it's kind of right. You know, we do have a lot that we already do not understand yet. I mean, even with Conqueror's Haki, we're still learning about how to master that, how to use it in a way to hurt regenerating opponents. Which, by the way, regeneration is still a thing that we just don't truly know about yet. The Mark of the Abyss is still an unknown. So I get why people are feeling like it's too much. I do not think this is, you know, a minor take. I mean, look at this, right? 7 likes. The OG comment has 10 likes. You know, this guy, he's kind of cooking. A Devil Fruit, plus weapon ability, plus Ancient Giant Lineage, plus eye abilities seems like too much. So I'm just trying to say he doesn't give him abilities, and it's just a narrative thing, so that kind of echoes that right there. Loki is Loki, Thor, Odin, and Heimdall all in one. Those eyes come with a power. Maybe he has some crazy observation haki. He has the Mangekyo, so basically his eyes will do whatever the plot needs him to do. It's always intrigued me how he was able to see so clearly with the bandages on, and also his reaction speed. His observation haki and future sight is probably enhanced. His eyes help his observation haki. I'm pretty sour on that one too. I mean, I could see it. This isn't the first time I've heard somebody say this. I just feel like hockey's something you should earn. Natural? I don't know. I mean, we have people who just unlock Conqueror's Haki at a whim. Well, I say at a whim, like when they were kids, right? They don't even know what's happening. But it would be crazy if, like, oh, you know, Loki's only strong because he was born with those eyes, or Loki's observation haki would suck if he didn't have those eyes. I'm afraid of those conversations. But yeah, I could see this, right? Honestly, I would lean towards, like, the third eye route, even. I think that'd be a little bit more tame. Just saying he has the same abilities that Pudding would get if she awakens, but he gets them off rip. And the thing with Pudding's third eye awakening is that we don't know what it looks like. For all we know, Pudding could awaken her third eye, and it actually becomes Loki's eye. Or, well, becomes Loki's eye. It looks like Loki's eye. Like, Pudding's third eye would just slit down the middle, and then it would get that fiery effect. I think that could be it. I think that'd be kind of interesting, even. This one says, I think a really good story beat would be the giant's thinking his eyes do something, like turn people to stone - kill people if he looks at them, giving him more reason to cover them up since he was a kid, but during a battle, the blindfold gets ripped and everyone freaks out except for Luffy, who stares him dead in the eye, and nothing. Just some different looking eyes, nothing special, period. This is good too. I like this. You know, the guy kind of cooked up his own little headcanon here, but I could honestly see this. Luffy, time and time again, has seen a character's insecurities, and he's like, oh, like, who cares, man? That's kind of cool, right? I'm rewatching One Piece, and I'm on Germ Island right now, and they're talking about Chopper and how he's a monster. He's got a blue nose. He's kind of ugly, kind of small, and Chopper's, like, sad and walking away, and then Luffy's like, yeah, like, you see that thing over there? You see that creature? I love that thing. He's got to join the crew. So I could totally see this being the case. This comment right here says, it has to be something that can do at least physical damage - make him stronger, as he was able to decapitate the Elbaf wolf. That is true. You know, he could just be a really strong baby, or the eyes did come in clutch and it killed the wolf. I don't know what that would fall under. Physical damage, maybe like optical powers. But I mean, beheading is so odd. Like, what would happen, right? He looks at a wolf and then the wolf gets strangled and then the head just pops off. That'd be kind of crazy. How would we even properly describe that? Would it be like the Force and like the Darth Vader chokehold? Maybe Loki's eyes can do that just innately. That'd be nuts. But yeah, there is the Loki eye power pole. What's the next one? Oh, now we're getting wacky. Yeah, this is because I'm rewatching One Piece. I apologize in advance, guys. If I'm going through my little trip here, you all are coming with me. I simply asked who would win in this fight pre-time skip. Location is Arlong Park, so there's land and water. And here we have it, man. 82% of people say that Arlong the Saw would take the cake, man. That's foul. 82%? Over Don Krieg, the pirate fleet admiral? I was hoping this would be a little bit closer. And it's funny because, like I said, I just got done rewatching this fight. And the thing with Arlong is that I think he has the attack power to put Don Krieg down. But I think Don Krieg is more durable. If you go back to the fight tit for tat, Don Krieg takes a lot of hits, right? I mean, forget his wood steel armor, but even after the wood steel breaks, he takes a bazooka, he takes a spear, he takes a hammer, and he gets back up at the very end. Dude, Don Krieg, I am not even joking when I say this, but if I had to compile a list of 10 characters in One Piece that could get Conqueror's haki based off of their previous showing, I think Don Krieg would have it. I mean, Don Krieg, first up, he was the pirate fleet admiral. He literally commanded 5,000 pirates. And not just that, but dude, this guy was willing to fight Mihawk. I forgot about that. Mihawk came out during the Grand Line. Mihawk destroyed Don Krieg's ships. His entire armada demolished in the matter of seconds. Don Krieg didn't know what the hell happened, but he knew that one guy did it. Mihawk chased him down to the Baratier, and do you know what happens? Mihawk fights Zoro. Zoro gets demolished. Don Krieg witnesses all of that. Don Krieg also notices that Redfoot Zeph hypes the hell out of Mihawk. And even after that, while Mihawk is on his way out, Mihawk is done. He fought Zoro. He's good for the day. He's willing to leave peacefully. Don Krieg gets up out of his way and says, Mihawk, you're gonna have to fight me now. What? Who says that, dude? It's like Eustace Kid. Don Krieg has the Eustace Kid mentality. He does not know when to quit. And like I said, even after Luffy landed all those blows on Don Krieg and he went down for a little bit, he got back up afterwards. Subconsciously, his eyes were in the back of his head. He wasn't even fully conscious. He got back up and wanted to fight some more. Oh my god, this guy's a monster. So I do think in terms of durability, pride, willpower, and everything above, I think Don Krieg takes the cake. But Arlong, I think his damage output is way higher, right? Between him and his sawtooth blade, shark darts is also pretty crazy. His water bullets could probably break Don Krieg's wood steel armor. I think that's all on the table. And if they're fighting at Arlong Park, water's around him, man. Don Krieg, even if he uses the MH5, Arlong would just go in the water and avoid it. I will say that Don Krieg, I looked at some of these comments, but we'll look through them too. Some people say that Don Krieg doesn't have the strength to fight Arlong. I don't think that's the case either. Like, Don Krieg was kind of a monster, dude. He was over here picking up that little paddle boat and throwing it. He was over here punching down pillars. Like, Don Krieg, unironically, was kind of strong. I think that Arlong would win the fight, but I think it would be like an extreme diff battle. And I mentioned shark darts because that's one of Arlong's strongest abilities, where he goes in the water and just zips out. But Don Krieg also has like a net. He has a literal fishing net that he could just throw over you. And it's a steel net too, man. Luffy used a rubber net and Arlong was kind of captured by that. Don Krieg with a steel net? Oh, man. Oh, man. Sorry, I'm just like glazing Don Krieg now. But I gotta admit, man, I'm excited for Don Krieg. I hope he makes a comeback in the series. We already saw him back at Hachinosu, so hopefully Oda's not done cooking with them yet. I would just love a Don Krieg, Luffy, Sanji, Gin reunion so much. Yeah, I already looked at the comments, man. I couldn't help myself for this one. If it's one-on-one, always bet on the Don, brother. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Don Krieg is the unofficial GOAT, my guy. This is coming from Uncle Iroh, by the way. Do you guys hate Uncle Iroh? I don't. Uncle Iroh was the GOAT in Avatar, man. Don Krieg can't be Arlong, but Geen can. I love that people do not like Don Krieg, but they gas the hell out of Geen. I mean, Geen is a great character. Even Mihawk ran away from Don Krieg. He is the strongest man in the East Blue, and we know that Dragon, Garp, and Roger are from the East Blue too. Don Krieg is the candidate for top 1. Only Dadan and Vista are capable of fighting him. I love this. What is this? Only Dadan and Vista. Where is this lore coming from? One thing that's kind of funny too, just a little PSA. I don't know if you guys noticed, but Don Krieg's voice actor is actually none other than the actual Fleet Admiral Akainu. The fact that the Pirate Fleet Admiral and the Fleet Admiral of the Marines share the same voice actor, that's crazy, man. That's aura. That is aura. I just started watching One Piece a few months ago, but I just finished the whole Arlong Park, so I can say that Arlong probably wins that. Yeah, and the reason I say that Don Krieg has higher durability, by the way, is because of Arlong Park. You know, I mentioned that Don Krieg took multiple hits from Luffy, and he was still willing to fight. Arlong, dude, he got finished with an axe, man. Gomu Gomu no Ono took him out? Yikes, dude. If it was Don Krieg, I think he would have stood up afterwards. But like I said, I think Arlong's attack power would give him the edge over Don Krieg, and that's why Arlong would win. But, you know, I'm dying on the hill that it would be an extreme diff battle. If there was no water around, I think Don takes it. 100%. Arlong was a different beast. He was the only one who could have survived in the Grand Line. Maybe Kuro as well with his speed until he had to face CP9. Yeah, I'm kind of curious, you know, if Don Krieg never got stopped by Mihawk, where would we have ended up seeing him? Drum Island, Little Garden, Whiskey Peak? I feel like Don Krieg would destroy Whiskey Peak, dude. Oh my god, those bounty hunters? No, they'd get cooked. I guess he'd get stopped at Alabasta. But it's tough because, you know, the Grand Line, it splits into so many different islands and directions. So there's a chance he just doesn't ever meet us at all. That's also the case. Let's see here. Arlong would have gold plate for dinner. Don Krieg was a way cooler villain with his 70s drip and armor, guns, and traps, while Arlong was obviously the most powerful antagonist Empire in the East Blue before Luffy took him down. Wasn't Arlong's thing keeping a low profile on an island, milking humans there for resources, so not many people knew about him. But he was the strongest pirate in the East Blue currently. Blue haki or golden haki? The battle shall be legendary. Arlong is a veteran pirate, not just a cocky fishman. Leagues above Hody. Was in Fisher Tiger's crew and survived Borsalino and Impel Down. So the thing with this too is that I'm curious, man, when we get these guys back in the series, you know, because, hey, Don Krieg was already shown, you know, we already got him back in the series technically, but when Arlong comes back, when we see what the time skip has done to him, and we have this conversation again, I wonder what the polls will look like. But yeah, that's enough about this one. It's kind of like a meme. So now on to the next poll. We got, oh, this one is split. Ooh, damn, dude. This one's crazy. Look at how many people voted in comparison. See, Arlong and Don Krieg, nobody cares about these guys. 3,000 votes. People care about this, though. 7,400 votes on Dorry plus Brogy versus Crocodile pre-time skip. Hey, I'm gonna have to give it to Sir Crocodile. I would give this to Crocodile because I do think that fighting a regular human-sized opponent is pretty tough. And this is pre-time skip Dorry and Brogy, so there are like some things we have to keep in mind, right? We're talking about Dorry and Brogy with dull weapons, right? They're not at their prime. They don't have the best equipment. And then Crocodile, man, he's just strong. You know, he's a Loki user. But I have seen people saying that Dorry and Brogy would outright lose because they do not have haki pre-time skip. And I do not agree with that mindset. I think Dorry and Brogy would stand a chance against Crocodile even without haki. Because one thing we have to keep in mind is that Luffy had no haki too. You know, I've seen people saying this in the comment section saying, oh, like Dorry and Brogy don't have haki. Luffy didn't have haki. Luffy found workarounds to fighting Crocodile. Luffy used water to fight Crocodile, you know? The water got absorbed into the sand, thus making Crocodile physical so that he can get hit. Dorry and Brogy could do the exact same thing. Hell, Dorry and Brogy would be scarier than Luffy. Luffy had to carry his water in a little barrel and then a bigger barrel on his back. Dorry and Brogy, they could simply get like a palm full of water and possibly flood an entire battlefield. You know, Dorry and Brogy, they could probably just spit on Crocodile and then they would be able to hit him. And then we have to remember, Crocodile, I think this is going to get nerfed, by the way. I feel like when we see Crocodile again post-time skip, he's not going to have these weaknesses. But Luffy was able to hurt Crocodile at the very end without water because he was bleeding. Luffy's blood was being absorbed into Crocodile, which allowed Luffy to beat him. So Dorry and Brogy not having haki, I do not really think is a big factor because of water, because of blood, and then because of spit. Spit does sound like a meme, like, oh, like they're gonna spit on a Crocodile, right? But the thing is that is a viable strategy against Crocodile. Like I said, when we see Crocodile again in the current story, I do not think he's going to be weak to water anymore. Seawater, yes, but regular water, blood, etc., I do not think he'll have that weakness. I think that Oda might actually buff Crocodile's sand abilities so that he's kind of like Green Bull, right? Because when Green Bull showed up to Wano and Momonosuke hit him with the Bolo breath, you know, they were like, oh, Green Bull's done. He's a forest. He's on fire. He's gone. And then Green Bull whipped this out of nowhere, but he said, oh, I'm a fireproof forest. What? Fireproof forest? Dude, give that to California, man. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Luffy or somebody tries to hit Crocodile with water, with blood, or with some liquid, and he's like, oh, my sand is so dense it can't absorb liquid anymore, which is kind of a thing in real life too. You know, not always the case. There's like nuance to that, but yeah, I could see Crocodile having denser sand post-time skip. So going back to like this pre-time skip battle, I give it a Crocodile, even though I vouch for Dorry and Brogy being able to fight Crocodile, simply because Crocodile is crafty, he's small, and his Logia isn't exactly a joke. He could easily absorb the water and moisture out of Dorry and Brogy. You know, obviously when you fight Crocodile, he's going to change the terrain as well, which would then make it harder for Dorry and Brogy to get around. And then, of course, like a sandstorm would really mess him up if they couldn't see where they're going. I just think Crocodile takes the cake here because of his abilities. But kind of like the Arlong and Don Krieg pull, I think this would be like a higher diff battle. So let's go to the comments. And I've seen a lot of this right here. Mr. 3's boss beats the Mr. 3 victims. And we got a lot of comments about this. Man, people were I saw this on my phone. You know, I was walking around doing my daily stuff. I looked down and people are just arguing about the Mr. 3 chatter. And the thing is, I feel like everybody who says this, like, oh, like, you know, Dorry and Brogy are Mr. 3 victims, that's something that I say as well. I'm not guilt-free when it comes to this. You know, I like to joke that Dorry and Brogy are Mr. 3 victims, but at the end of the day, Mr. 3 did play dirty, right? Dorry got taken out ASAP. You know, what happened, it's funny because I hate that I keep on saying this, but I just rewatched this recently, so it just refreshed my memory. But Mr. 3 made Dorry slip and fall, and then Brogy ended up taking out Dorry. And then when Brogy was chained up in the wax, it was because he was tired. You know, it was after his battle, he got caught by surprise. And then when Brogy was about to get out of the wax prison, Mr. 3 started sweating bullets. So I think in a fair fight, of course, Dorry and Brogy would win. But of course, in Little Garden, with all the nuance applied to that scenario, while Mr. 3 was hiding in the shadows, he did win that battle. So I don't think they're exactly Mr. 3 victims. That's a funny term to call them, right? And I will still call them that. But I like to imagine most people who say that are, you know, part of the joke. We all know it's kind of like a meme. All I'm saying is that Mr. 3 victims are getting drowned in sand. Enough said. That is true. You know, like I said, Crocodile turning the ground into sand would destroy Dorry and Brogy. That would be crazy. And then with Crocodile, he can also fly in his sand form too. His sand is also very sharp, so it could use like a desert spada, and that would cut Dorry and Brogy as well. Like, I think Crocodile should not be slept on. But also, I can see why people pick Dorry and Brogy, because like I said, they have a lot in their arsenal. Which people say the Hakaku sovereignty could take out Crocodile, and I agree with that. I think if Crocodile got hit with the Hakaku sovereignty dead on, he would probably get cooked. Even if there's like no haki behind it, I think that would just be a crazy blast. Like if Crocodile were to turn into sand, all of the sand would get blown to the next island, which I just call that a Dorry and Brogy W. But that right there is an ability that Dorry and Brogy can only use once because their weapons would break. Let's see here. Maybe they confuse pre with post. Pre time skip Crocodile packs them up. Funny thing as well, I did some research on this the other day because of this post. But did you guys know that Dorry and Brogy have not been confirmed to have any haki yet? I know. Shocking. You might be saying, wait, what? Huh? That is right. I went through Dorry and Brogy's wiki page, which, of course, the wiki can be wrong, but they do constantly update their information so they're as accurate as possible. But as far as it goes, you know, when it comes to Vivery cards and all displays in the manga, they don't have haki. They are not stated to have observation. They're not stated to have armament. No conquerors, obviously. So, you know, it's kind of tough out there, man. It's kind of tough out there. I think it makes sense that they do have haki, but we just have not seen it yet. You know, I would be shocked if the giant warrior pirates of old do not have basic haki. So I think that's going to be, you know, cleared up in the next couple of chapters here in Elbaf. But until then, they're not confirmed to have it, man. Damn, that's crazy. Applying the logic some are using, pre-time skip Mr. 3 is strong enough to face off with the Gorosei. Yeah, that's where the joke kind of falls apart, right? You know, when logic comes in, yeah, it sounds really silly. I do think that Mr. 3 would be an absolute monster if he kept on training. Same with most characters, right? Like Rob Lucci's a great example. Rob Lucci, pre-time skip villain, but even post-time skip, he's still pretty relevant. Like, he's not weak, right? You know, I'd say he's like Yonko Commander level. But yeah, if Mr. 3 just never stopped training, if he just kept on getting stronger and awakened even, oh my god. Yeah, he'd be a monster. I think people forget Dorry and Brogy are the same pre and post, and assuming they got no dual weapons, I think they got it. That's the thing. They do have dual weapons, but yeah, pre and post though, like this is tough, you know, because we have like different level of feats pre and post. Like Crocodile post time skip, I'm assuming he's going to be a monster. You know, Crocodile, in his Vivery cards, he did get confirmed observation and armament, something that Dorry and Brogy did not get yet. I want to put the yet in there. Okay, so yeah, I'm looking at it right here. Crocodile did get confirmed armament on observation haki in his Vivery card. So if we do see like a post time skip Crocodile, I'm assuming his feats are going to get even crazier, which I do think makes sense. He's no slouch. He does have a bounty of 1.9 billion berries, which is kind of insane, dude. 1.9 billion berries? How did they come up with that number? I know that it's a play on words of crocodile. Like if you break his name down and you put it in numbers, it is 1.96. But still, they're going to have to justify that somehow, man. You know, Dorry and Brogy worth 1.8 each. But Crocodile individually, man, 1.9. He's got the bounty edge. But of course, that's post-time skip. You know, we're talking about pre-time skip here, so we got to ignore that. Y'all crazy voting against Croc. Pre and post Croc is winning. Imagine if he adds haki with his devil fruit. Mr. 3 body them pre-time skip. But all jokes aside, see, this is a great sport, dude. All jokes aside, you know, he knows that this is a joke. It's a great meme that I think some people take too seriously. But yeah, all jokes aside, I think if Crocodile pulled up on Little Garden, he would clear them easily. And yeah, if you were to pull up on Little Garden, man, I think he would clear. I mean, just thinking about the size difference, like, it must be so hard to actually fight somebody smaller than you. Like, yes, of course, we had Brogy grab Emu a couple chapters back, but right after that, Emu simply just shot his arm off and then danced around him, essentially, and turned him into a demon. And then, of course, you know, going to Mac Vice, yes, Harden beat Mac Vice, a human opponent, but Mac Vice wasn't really moving for the most part. He jumped in the sky and he simply fell down. It's not like, you know, he had to like follow the movement and just Harden was just so quick he hit him. I think if Crocodile actively tried to dodge Dorry and Brogy's attacks, they wouldn't be able to touch him. You know, even with the water, the blood, you know, spit even, I think Crocodile's just a really slippery guy despite all that. People forget two things. Dorry and Brogy were fighting for 100 years straight. Mind you, the longest fight besides them is Kuzan and Akainu, which only lasted 10 days before, and they were too exhausted, so that severely nerfed them. Number two is that they have haki. Showcased with their Hakuaku sovereignty technique, they likely have conquerors as well. So I saw this comment earlier. And this comment right here is what made me look up the whole Dorry and Brogy haki thing. Because even with their Hakaku sovereignty, it's not confirmed if that's haki at all. Like, I'll just pull up right here, right? Yeah, it says nothing about haki. And just so you know, I'm not lying about Dorry and Brogy not being confirmed haki users. This is their ability and powers on the wiki. Nothing at all about haki. Like I said, they could be wrong, but the wiki does a really good job at keeping up with supplementary material. Like, all the data books are in here. The Vivre cards are in here. So if they were said to have haki anywhere, I would like to imagine that they would have it listed. But yeah, getting back to the brass tacks, I do think Crocodile would take that. That is where I put my vote. But I can see why people think Dorry and Brogy would win. I mean, just because they don't have haki doesn't mean they're out of the race. They're still giants at the end of the day. But I will say this, though. You know, when it comes to Dorry and Brogy, their durability wasn't all that crazy pre-time skip from what we saw. Like, Dorry went down due to a single slash. Of course, he drank, like, explosive alcohol beforehand, so there's that to take in consideration. But also, one slash is what really knocked him out. And then as far as Brogy goes, he got hit a couple times with Mr. 3's wax abilities, and then he was pretty much down for the count. Of course, Mr. 3 got free hits in on Brogy, but still, I would like to imagine Crocodile's damage output supersedes all of that. Crocodile should be doing more damage than explosive barrels. He should be doing more damage than dull blades, right? Because that's what did Dorry and dull blades. And then I think, you know, Mr. 3 landing those wax hits on Brogy, Crocodile should be like at least 10 times stronger than that. So yeah, I think pre-time skip, Crocodile easily takes it. And then as far as post-time skip goes, I would still like to vote on Crocodile, but, you know, that's tough. That is very tough. We got to see more from Dorry, Brogy, and of course more from Crocodile to actually say that. But yeah, that is the one poll where I'm not agreeing with the majority, which is sad, man. Well, I mean, it's like 50-50 almost, right? It's 50-50. This one says, will there be another group that arrives in Elbaf current day? And I put some examples there like Shanks, Crossgill, Blackbeard, Marines, etc. Could be anybody. If there's a third party that shows up here in Elbaf besides the current group, that counts as a yes. And 45% of people say yes. They do want more factions here. And I think this is because we're in the final saga. You know, everybody knows, man, the doomsday clock is ticking. One Piece is ending soon. So we want more people to show up. You know, everybody wants more time with their favorite characters, their favorite factions, and I can't blame them. So yeah, more the merrier. That is what people are going with. And then as far as second place goes, we have the maybe option, anything's possible. And then last place, we have no, focus on the current people. I myself am a fence sitter when it comes to this. I'm in the maybe category because I do think it is important to focus on the current people in Elbaf. Like the Straw Hats, man. Some of the Straw Hats did not even get proper focus yet. You know, we're still expecting more from Frankie. You know, we're still expecting more from Robin, Brooke even, Chopper. Like, there's a lot of characters that need to get fleshed out, in my opinion. So I would like to focus on the current Straw Hats. But I do think the more the merrier, dude. You know? Like, I am one of those guys who, I will admit, man, I do want Cross-Guild here. I don't know why they would come, but, dude, if Cross-Guild came, hell, Neo, Mads, Sword, the Marines, Blackbeard. What's another, like, random group? I mean, the Big Mom Pirates. I don't know why they would show up, but the Big Mom Pirates, you know, Yamato. Like, if just somebody else came here, that would be such a what the hell moment that I think would be fun. Of course, we would have to go back to this one right here. Like, would the current Straw Hats and people get their proper focus? That's a dicey one. That would be more up to Oda and how he wants to divvy up the time spent. But yeah, I do think more the merrier is great. But of course, I hope that doesn't come at the detriment of the focus on the current peeps. So that is why I am in the maybe category. So yeah, look at this. Enough poll spamming for today, guys. Yeah, I love poll spamming, man. It's so fun. It's like my ultimate ability. This one says, I think Rayleigh and Boa might show up. Rayleigh and Scopper with the team up here in Elbaf? Yo, that'd be fire. Wait a minute. I didn't even think about Rayleigh. Rayleigh and Scopper. And then, of course, Boa. Ooh, dude. Yeah, I mean, Boa did want to leave Amazon Lily. They said that as long as Boa is on Amazon Lily, the Marines will keep on attacking. And after that, Boa said, ooh, I want to go see Luffy. Dude. And then Rayleigh could say, hey, Boa, I'm going to follow you. I'm going to accompany you on your journey because I want to check up on my good friend Scopper. That would be sick. We did see Rayleigh recently, though. We don't know where Rayleigh was. I think it was at Shaggy's bar. But Rayleigh was drinking because of the Vegapunk message. So I don't think this is the case. I think Rayleigh's back with Shaggy, but Boa could still be a valid pick. And who knows? Maybe Rayleigh sees the news and he sees that, you know, Luffy is with the Giants of Elbaf, and then that is when he goes to Elbaf. We could say that this was Rayleigh like a week ago, and then now Rayleigh's on his way. And then he did pick up Boa, or maybe he ran into Boa. I think that would be fun. I think this is a really fun pick. Is it plausible? It's not impossible, but, you know, it's fun. I like that. Rayleigh with Scopper would be an epic lesson for the Straw Hats 2 and 3, and Boa's introduction to all the Straw Hats together could be... Oh, yeah. Dude, I forgot that. Boa hasn't met any of the Straw Hats. Yeah, she's only met Luffy. All the Straw Hats that saw Boa from a distance were like, wait, Luffy, what the hell were you doing? Were you even training? Well, to be fair, that was Sanji who said it, but yeah, like, they were shocked to see Boa there. No, that'd be so epic. Boa Hancock. And then we could get, like, a fun Boa and Emu, like, connection even. Maybe Boa shows up, and then the people who held her and tortured her as a kid are here. Like, imagine if Killingham was the one who tortured Boa and the Marigold Sisters. Ooh, that'd be fire. People don't like that when I say it, right? Like, oh, like, they're gonna meet their torturers, but... that would be a nice story because Boa would get a chance to whoop some ass, man. You know, I talk about Bonnie all the time. Like, oh, you know, one day Bonnie's going to meet her real dad. You know, her real dad is a celestial dragon and we're going to meet him one day. And people are like, oh, Sai, that's too much. That's too much. It's going to happen, dude. He's up there in the Holy Land. He's probably going to be a big bad villain. Brother, bring him in. Have Bonnie beat some sense into him. Who doesn't want that? You know, if you get beaten up and tortured by somebody, it always feels good when you're on the other end of it. When you're the one beating them down. This one says, I'm convinced... Oh, yeah, Vivi and Morgans. Oh, my God. Dude, Vivi and Morgans, that's so funny. You guys remember back in Egghead Island? I mean, like I said, I talk about theories all day long. I remember talking about Vivi and Morgans maybe showing up to Egghead Island. I think like every other week. They never did. They never did. That's just what happens in One Piece, man. But hey... you miss one, you take another shot. So maybe Vivi and Morgans will show up here in Elbaf. Yeah, that could be solid. I mean, where's Vivi gonna go, right? Is she just gonna hang out with Morgans? Sure, but she could come here. She could come here. We did start the arc with Vivi leaving a note for the Straw Hats in the newspaper. Could be a hint. Could be a hint that will end the arc with Vivi and Morgans. This one says, if we get different characters this arc, I'd prefer another world update or mini sword-cross guild section. Me as well. I think we're not going to get this until the very end of Elbaf, but yeah, I will love a world update. It says, I think we need more situations where the Straw Hats must establish themselves as a Yonko crew. Egghead was an opportunity for that, for sure, but the Straw Hats somewhat fell short and had to rely on many outside factors, such as the Giants pulling up to escape Egghead. Elbaf should be an arc where the Straw Hats work on their shortcomings and each member begins to pull their weight, but it's not looking good so far. And yeah, I don't think this would be bad. I mean... when it comes to the Straw Hats being a Yonko crew, like, not everybody has to be relevant per se, but I would actually love it if the Straw Hats focused on what they're supposed to be, right? Which sounds a bit odd, but, you know, Sanji's the cook, hopefully he gets some new recipes. Chopper's the doctor, hopefully he gets some new medicinal techniques. You know, Nami's the navigator, hopefully she talks to Scopper, who's also a navigator, and she learns more about the world, right? I think there's a lot of ways for the crew to grow that isn't just strength-based. But the ones who are supposed to be fighters, I hope they do get buffs. Like what Scopper said to Zoro, right? Scopper's like, hey, Zoro, you have Conqueror's haki. You don't know if you have Conqueror's haki. What the hell are you doing, man? You are a Yonko crew. I think that was beautiful. And then even going to Frankie, right? Frankie, he's a fighter, but he's more of a technician. So I think he could get a lot of glow up from Vegapunk and the Ancient Lab. Chopper already started reading books. Robin, just read some books. She's an archaeologist. I guess another character who falls in the fighting category. You know, people could disagree with this one, but Usopp. You know, Usopp's role in the crew is sniper. He hasn't really been doing a lot of sniping, man. You know, like, at least not valuable sniping. So I think Usopp is another one of those characters who could get something out of Elbaf. I hope he does. Sanji as well. Of course, Sanji's the cook. But, I mean, he's a wing of the Pirate King, man. You know, he is a fighter at the end of the day. You know, he cooks with his hands, he kicks with his feet. So, yeah. I do agree with this. I do think that if the Straw Hats were focused on, that would not be bad. And that's why, like, when I talk about the more the merrier, I do just hope it does not come at the risk of losing focus on the current Straw Hats. Hopefully Oda can juggle and, toss them all up at the same time, but we'll see. A group I could see pulling up is, oh, my guy, Captain Kidd, dude. Oh, yeah. Hey, he doesn't have to pull up because he's already here. That's where I'm at, man. I mean, we saw him off the coast of Elbaf. I think he washed ashore. Let's be real. If Kidd is alive, it would be shocking if he wasn't in Elbaf. Like, the next island, possibly days away. You're telling me that him, with no ship, in the middle of the ocean, just went to a different island when Elbaf is right here? No way. No way, Jose. Yeah, he definitely washed up. Yeah, he said it right here too. Also, how many times Big Mom got referenced, and even Luffy being confused when they said he beat Big Mom, since he's not taking credit for that. I could see Kidd pulling a Luffy and unlocking Conqueror's Haki infusion after being hit by it. Monkey see, monkey do. Hey. I can't say it too loudly, brother, but I agree with you. Kidd does have Conqueror's Haki. He is a candidate for someone who could fight the Holy Knights. I hope he does it. I hope Kidd gets the glow up. But people don't want to see it, man. I think the reason why people don't want to see Kidd's glow up, and the reason why people want Kidd to just be dead, is because of Kidd back in Wano and against Shanks. Like, he just didn't have the greatest of performances. Yeah, he was fine against Big Mom, but I think people wanted more. Right, even with Ryuo and Conqueror's Haki, Kidd was really confused. He kind of like pulled the Zoro, saying, wait, what is that? Like, so I think that's why people are really sour about Kidd. Of course, he has like a bounty that is equivalent to Luffy, but people feel like Kidd hasn't earned it. So hopefully Kidd comes back and it just changes the optics, man. And like I said, Japan loves Kidd. When I went to Japan a while back, I saw a lot of Eustace Kidd merch. Dude, his devil fruit was floating around in One Piece stores. Kidd was not a slouch in the Japanese market. So hopefully, Oda has something cooking for him. But we'll see. The owl in the library, when he sees Morgan's shocked and love emojis. Marry me and I'll make your newspaper even bigger. That's crazy. Oh my god, look at the name. Wano Analysis, and it's the Morge plush. Is that the Morge plush? I think it is. To be honest, I kind of want Big News Morgans to arrive in Elbaf. This one says the part of the Big Mom pirates that were in Wano still haven't shown back up. So we could see them, especially given the history of Big Mom with Elbaf, coming back at some point in this arc. Maybe towards the end after we dealt with the current Holy Knight situation. Just too many loose ends for Big Mom. I agree. And then with Big Mom too, we should be getting her in the next chapter maybe. Because right now, based on where we left off, right? We are 63 years in the past currently. Big Mom is in Elbaf, brother. She is there. Mother Carmel is there. Big Mom could 100% show back up current day. And it would be like that full circle kind of thing. So let's see here. We're not going to read too many more. We got a lot of comments. I can see people arriving that will help strengthen Elbaf to deter the WG threats after the Straw Hats leave. That'd be fun. Yeah, no, you're kind of right. Just thinking about like Wano, for example, because that was really important. We left Yamato there to protect Wano more or less. And then, of course, like Nekomamushi and Inuarashi, they also stayed in Wano as well. Mainly because they wanted to retire there. But yeah, they are like guarding Wano too. So maybe whoever shows up does end up protecting Elbaf. All right, so now moving on to the next poll. How many more do we have? I think we're almost done. Oh yeah, we're almost done. We got like a couple left. Damn, okay, I'm gonna start speeding through these, man. So next up, it says, will Usopp ever unlock Conqueror's Haki? I had to ask, hey, sorry guys, I had to ask. All right, this has been a theory that's been floating around for years and years now. We're in Elbaf. This is supposed to be Usopp's arc per se. This is his dream at least, right? Ever since Usopp heard about Elbaf, he said he wanted to go. Little Garden, he mentioned it. Egghead Island, he mentioned it. Even during Water 7, they mentioned it as well. Usopp said his dream is to go there. And Oimo and Kashi said, hey, Usopp, we will take you to Elbaf. He didn't do it. He stayed with the Straw Hats, which is this middle picture right here. But yeah, will Usopp ever unlock Conqueror's Haki? And when I say this as well, unlocking Conqueror's Haki, people kind of have the notion that Usopp, if you vote yes, that he's going to be spamming COC attacks. I personally don't think that's the case. I think if Usopp were to unlock Conqueror's Haki, it would be in short bursts. Like maybe he doesn't know what's happening. Kind of like Zoro, right? Zoro has Conqueror's Haki. He didn't know what it was. You know, he just assumed he was attacking. I mean, Usopp with observation haki didn't even know what was happening too. So if it happens, I think it's going to be like a one-time thing. It will be accidental, and that's pretty much it. And it might not even be strong. You know, Usopp might be the weakest conqueror out there, which right next to Kid, because Kid has not displayed anything yet. So let's see here. You know, we have 30. Wow, this is like across the board mixed. 34, 30, 36. My God. I'll never be happier that Oda writes a story instead of fans than when I'm reading Usopp fan theories - logic. Hey, the thing is, man, is that this is Oda's story, but we don't know what Oda's doing yet. You know, the story isn't over. All I gotta say, you know? I mean, hell, there's even a long-running gag where all of Usopp's lies have more or less became true. I mean, we started this arc with one of those lies even, where he talked about how a cat, once its tail gets split into two, it becomes a monster, which of course is a yokai lore nonetheless, but that happened with East Cat. So, you know, like, that's a gag that's still going on and being brought into the story. And one of Usopp's lies was that he had Conqueror's haki. So, I don't know, man. Like, I get this notion, right? Like, I'm happy that Oda writes a story, but the thing is that the story isn't done. And Oda has put Usopp and Conqueror's haki in the same sentence. So it's tough to say if Oda will do it or not, right? But if Oda did do it, what would we say then? Like, would we say, ooh, I'm not happy that Oda writes One Piece anymore? Like, I don't know. Personally, I'm in the yes category just because it's kind of been teased. I do err towards maybe even, but if I had to pick a hard yes or no, I would lean towards yes. Either way, as long as Usopp gets a brave moment, I'll be happy. You know, when it comes to Usopp, all I want is for him to be brave. Will that ever happen, though? We'll see. We'll see. Can we get him to lock in on mastering observation haki first before we move on to the strongest haki? 23 replies. Oh, my God. I can already imagine the fighting in there. I wish Usopp becomes more like Hawkeye in Green Arrow with his sniping because he's been underperforming in that regard. I mean, hell, I would love it if Usopp becomes a trick shotter. Dude, if we're talking about Usopp being a sniper, I wish he was just doing trick shots. Kind of like what we saw in the live action with his dad, right? His dad, like, shot a pillar, the bullet hit the pillar, then it killed the guy. Like, oh my God. We need that, man. We need Usopp to be a trickster. You know, Loki's got to teach him something. What makes God Usopp great is it always seems like there's absolutely no way he can win, but you know he will in a wild fashion. Not gonna lie, I was an Usopp fan, but the gimmick is over, man. It gets tiring. So no, it doesn't make sense for him to get it. The funny thing about observation haki, too, I don't know if you guys watched Film Red, but Usopp, we don't know how the hell this happens, but Usopp and Yasopp, they link eyes at the end of the movie. Everything that Yasopp could see, Usopp could see too, and he had no idea what the hell is going on. Like, is Usopp going to be one of those characters that just gets haki abilities and just has no clue? I don't know. I've seen people saying that, oh, like, you know, Oda, he didn't write the entire movie, so maybe he didn't do that. But the guy who did write the One Piece movie, he knows the ending of One Piece. And then, of course, Oda released, like, Volume 4 Billion, which, you know, also added in more haki feats to other characters. But, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I think Usopp will always be one of the weaker characters of the Straw Hats. I don't think anything's going to change that. Like, even if he had Conqueror's haki, I still think he's among the weak trio. I think it's one of those cases where if he gets it, he just won't know what it is. Same with observation. Well, I don't know. Will he master observation? Maybe. It's just that nobody's told him he has it. And then Usopp's never talked about haki that often, so... Yeah, hell nah. If Usopp does, personally, I like it to be unlocked in a very last-ditch effort attack for a monumental moment for the story. Yeah, and I think this kind of follows in with, like, the whole he'll unlock it, but he doesn't know what's happening. Ida is going to become the Sukiyaki of Elbaf to haunt Sai and Par. He is the most courageous being, normal, no powers, facing demons and godly powers. Bro said he has it, hasn't lied yet. Caught up since 2002, but I hate to say it, Usopp will get some crazy glow up. I hate to say it, but I think he'll get plot armor and Oda will make it fit tighter than a prom night. He's just too good of a writer to let us down. If he unlocks it, it should be in his matchup against Van Augur. Dude deadass looked Saturn in yokai form in the eye and told him that they want the world. No better moment than having it unlocked against his set nemesis. Maybe after the latter killed Yasopp in a sniper duel. Afterwards, he can damage the God Knights and Gorosei in the final fight. I'd be down for that. Yeah, you know, I think it kind of ties back to what Enel set up here. if Usopp does get conqueror's haki, that's where I'm at, right? Just, it's going to be for one attack. It's going to be weak. It'll kind of just be a plot thing. And that's it. I don't think Usopp's going to master conqueror's haki. I think he's going to fall in the Zoro route, up until this point where he just doesn't know what's going on. Which at this point, I'm just kind of like repeating. But yeah, that's my take on it. It looks like everybody's kind of split on this. Look at that. 36, 30, 34. That's so funny, dude. Nobody knows. And I feel like, I'm not going to lie, man. I feel like if I were to hold this poll next week, the week after, the month after, a year after, more and more people will say no. Like, as the story goes on, the hype for Usopp goes down. Until something happens, the hype is going to continue in this downward spiral until Oda does something. And I just think that if Oda were to do something, it has to be here in Elbaf, man. There's no way. This is the land of his dreams. How does he not do something? It does bother me a little bit. It does. I don't even like Usopp, People might say, I'm glazing Usopp too much. I'm not, dude. I do not like Usopp. Ever since day one, I don't think I've ever been an Usopp fan, but I am pretty unbiased when it comes to this, but I just want the best for characters, man. Even if I don't like him, I want the best for characters. And I feel like for Usopp, man, he doesn't need it per se, but I think this story is kind of set up in a way where normal guy does super brave thing. He breaches the realm of conquerors for like 1 second. I don't know if you guys watch Overlord, but it's kind of like when Brain Unglaus fights Cocytus. And in that moment, Brain, he goes from a normal person to a superhuman for just 1 second. I think it's more like a split second. He breaches the realm, but he still ends up losing anyways. I think Usopp could be like that. Normal guy, breaches the realm for 2 seconds, one attack, and then never again. So now, next up, another Arlong. I'm sorry, guys. Like I said, I just got done with Arlong Park not too long ago. Will Arlong ever come back into the main story? 22% say yes, 21% say maybe, and then we have 57% saying outright no. So wait, the no got erased right here. What the heck? Can I refresh? There we go. I'm in the yes category. I have a pretty strong opinion on this one. I think just because of his whole backstory with Nami, because of his backstory with Fisher, Tiger, and Jinbei, I feel like he's just one of those characters that will come back. And I think, more so than Don Krieg, I think Arlong will even have dialogue in the story. I think by the end of series, I could see him and Jinbei chilling. I'm not gonna lie, Jinbei's like, hey, Arlong, should have followed me. We should have followed Fisher Tiger more. Like, I could definitely see that happening. I feel like he's just one of those characters who needs to see an ideal world. The world that everybody around him believes in. The world that Jinbei believes in. The world that Fisher Tiger believes in. I mean, hell, Koala. Don't forget, Arlong was there when Koala was saved and rescued and was brought to her hometown. Maybe the Revs are attacking the Holy Land right now, and Arlong is one of the slaves. Bro, imagine if Arlong was a slave at Marie Joie, and the person that saves him is the kid that he helped a long time ago with Fisher Tiger. Do you know how poetic that would be? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm a simple guy. But Koala saving Arlong, W. Hell, erase Koala. Nami or Jinbei saving Arlong, W. I think that'd be massive. Of course, maybe I'm biased when it comes to this because I just got done with this arc. But yeah, I think without a shadow of a doubt, Usopp, I said maybe conqueror's haki. I said yes, but I'm leaning towards maybe. Like, I was there. Arlong, I'm dead set on yes. I think he's going to come back. This says, I imagine almost every character will come back into the story near the end. I could see Oda doing reaction shots of a ton of old characters. Yep. I will say, I'm so hard on this one that I'd say we get more than just a reaction even. Since he's an Impel Down, when the final breakout happens, Oda might just tease him for one panel. Funny enough, Arlong is not an Impel Down. He could be. I don't think the chance is 0. But Arlong was defeated in the East Blue. Luffy went into Impel Down way afterwards, and Arlong was not there. And of course, the funny thing is that we saw Hachi. Hachi was captured with Kurobi, Chu, and Arlong, and he escaped. He escaped. And he made no mention of Impel Down. So for all we know, Arlong could have been sold to Celestial Dragons. Arlong could have been kept at a marine-based prison, which would be kind of crazy, right? I feel like most notable villains go to Impel Down. So if Arlong was just kept in a random cell in the middle of nowhere, that'd be kind of nuts. But yeah, I don't think he's in Impel Down. And of course, if he is, then yeah, when the final breakout happens, he will make a comeback. And I already like this one because I saw this comment earlier. But yeah, we don't see him in Impel Down during that arc. I think he's a slave in the Holy City personally, which is why none of the Arlong crew showed up in Impel Down either. This one says, I'm pretty sure he's in a random prison and not Impel Down. There's no way he's in Impel Down and wasn't shown during the arc. It doesn't make any sense. And yeah, pretty much everybody says it here. So this one says, I think Arlong coming back would be huge for Nami's character, especially if he's in a position where Nami has to save him, such as being enslaved by the Celestial Dragons. Yeah. I think this would be massive. And the thing is, Nami doesn't have to forgive Arlong. Like, I'm not one of those guys where I'm like, oh, Nami has to forgive Arlong for everything he's done. I don't think that's the case. I just think that Nami could show that she's the bigger person and that, you know, she would still help Arlong because slavery's kind of bad. This one says, if yes, one panel, no dialogue. Yes, but it won't be in a big way. Ever since he wasn't in Impel Down, I've imagined when the crew goes to Marie-Joie, Nami will free some group of slaves and not even recognize that he's among them. That'd be nice. We'll get a shot of him recognizing her, almost saying something, stopping out of shame, and then never see him again. Yeah, you know, even though I say that, you know, Nami and Jinbei will be with him, I don't think it'll be, like, massive. You know, like, looking back at the story, I don't think it'll be one of those things that people talk about, but yeah, overall, I think Arlong will get, like, at least, like, 5 panels. It won't be 0. I don't think it'll be 0. So now, on to the next poll. We're almost done. You know, if you guys are still here, man, kudos to y'all, man. My voice is running out. How many more? 1, 2... Oh, my God, we got it. We got a couple. My God. Okay, Enel. I'll speed through this one. This poll is pretty, you know, one-sided. People are voting yes. Enel making a comeback. A lot of people are going for yes. 63%. 25 are on maybe, and then only 12 say no. Bigger than Arlong, man. That's crazy. But yeah, it looks like, for the most part, because he's in the mural, or well, not him, but because the Arc Maxim, or a ship like the Arc Maxim, is in the mural, people think he's going to come back. Another thing with Arlong too, he's one of the few characters that actually knows about the ancient weapons because he saw like the vague depictions up on the moon. He has like the whole moon pirate thing going on. So there is a chance that Enel gets really curious about all of that and he just comes back down to earth to conquer or to learn about history. And then of course he had that weird like full circle moment where he wanted to go to Fairy Verth. So he left Earth, went to the moon, which is what he believed to be Fairy Verth. He didn't discover Fairy Verth, and then he learned that his people actually came from the moon originally. So Enel is like doing this weird like Birkin reversal card. I just don't know. But yeah, I think Enel could come back. I think that'd be kind of fun too, right? Enel was like one of the strongest characters pre-time skip. I mean, hell, Enel at that point in time had the highest bounty we've ever seen. Oda in an SBS dropped that Enel be worth 500 million. That's crazy. You know, give this guy haki, make him less reliant on his devil fruit, and he'd be an absolute monster. You know, one of the first characters that showed constant observation haki even with his mantra. Yeah, Enel is nuts. Yeah, his ship's in the mural. Enel can't come back before he learns about the Void Century. He knows too much. God, imagine if time dilation in Elbaf is a thing. Imagine if Enel had been on that blue planet messing things up in the Holy Land. That'd be wild, but I'd be in. How silly would it be if Enel flies with the Arc Maxim back to Earth, coincidentally near Elbaf, or to the right of the Heaven World, and it gets sucked down to Elbaf with a lightning bolt that is summoned by Loki's hammer? I talked to my brother about this, and he's of the opinion that since Enel accomplished what he wanted, reaching Eternal Verth, the moon, he's not coming back. But considering a bunch of the major villains have made and are seemingly making returns, I wouldn't be surprised. Plus, I have my own reasons for kind of wanting him to make some kind of return. And yeah, man, I have my own reasons too. And my reasons aren't as grandiose as others. You know, some people have theories revolving around Enel. For me, I just love his character, dude. The rumble fruit, lightning, yeah, bring him back. And then of course he has like the whole like drum thing on his back as well with the Raigo, Amaru. Like, dude, his attacks, the way it looks, woo. And hey, I talked about this with Don Krieg, right? If I had a list of characters that would get Conqueror's haki, I put Don Krieg on it. Enel, he'd be on that list too. Enel is 100% a conqueror-coded character. My theory is that he's actually the one attacking Marie-Joie right now. It doesn't make enough sense for it to be Dragon or anybody else we know. Enel is my best deduction because of the thematics of him meeting the actual gods. His Arc Maxim and bringing back Lost Technology-Army, which could have an advantage over the WG. That is true. I didn't even think about that, but he could have like actual Void Century lost First World technology. That is what he could have seen up on the moon. I voted no with absolute certainty. No time to think about it. I am shocked. It's funny how he put shocked. I like that. He even capitalized it, so he knows what he did there. I'm shocked how many people think his arc is not narratively complete. I'd say you could call it conclusive. You know, if Enel never makes a comeback, you could look back and say, yeah, it's conclusive. But I think there are ways to bring him back in. I mean, the mural is a grand example, right? The Arc Maxim being in the mural, or something like the Arc Maxim. I think we can't just overlook that. Of course, like the lightning bolt that also comes from it too, which I think is another Enel call-in. And then with Enel too, like we have the whole thing where he went to Fairyverse, he went to the moon, only to discover that everything that his ancestors wanted is back on Earth. This one says, I sure hope so. He's the battery Emu needs, he'll be back. He asked the Enel better yacht down from the moon, and 1 million Thunderbolt Raiko, the finale. I think this is, okay, this is why I'm like iffy on it, because if Enel does come back, and he does have like, you know, haki, you know, he's this really strong character that just kept on leveling up, like Rob Lucci even, he'd be a menace. You know, Lightning is possibly the strongest Logia out there. I mean, hell, even comparing him to like a Kainu or Kizaru, I feel like Lightning is just insane. Maybe it's just me, though, but yes, it looks like the Enel poll is skewed towards yes. Scrolling down again, we're almost done. Okay, we're not going to look at the comments for this one, but I just generally asked, how long will the Elbaf flashback be in total? And I put this right here, you know, playing devil's advocate. Wano plus the Odin flashback was 14 chapters for comparison. Yeah, that sounds absurd. When I heard that it was 14 chapters, 16 chapters, I was in shock. But yeah, for a comparison, there it is. So I put 1 to 3 here, 4 to 6, and then 7 plus. I think 4 to 6 is very reasonable. You know, just going back to like the Kuma flashback, that was like 4 to 6 chapters. So I think Oda's going to kind of speed it up and just do that exact same format. I would be hard pressed to see 7 plus chapters. Like I don't even know where it's going to go from there, right? King Harald for 7 plus chapters? My God. Of course, like I said, Elbaf flashback. So, you know, we could go into like Loki territory. It could even divert into Shanks as well, which would be considered an Elbaf flashback. But yeah, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to say 4 to 6 is where we're at. You know, the minute we get to like other characters besides Loki and King Harald, maybe that's when it gets wacky. And that's where it goes to like, you know, 10 plus even. But for now, if it is just Harald and Loki, 4 to 6. I think... Oh, man, we got 3 left. Oh, dude. Oh, my voice is dying. Bloodlusted. Who would win? King of Hell Zoro or Laboon the Whale? You might be wondering, Sai, why even ask this? And it's because when I got to Twin Capes, I remembered how large Laboon is. Brother, Laboon is massive. So if Laboon is actually bloodlusted, could he kill Zoro? And when I say bloodlusted, I mean that Laboon wants to kill Zoro. Like Laboon, you know, all of his inhibitors are gone. You know, he just wants to eat Zoro for no apparent reason. If we had to give reasoning behind it, I did say that maybe Zoro killed Brook. You know, Zoro hunted all the whales. And Laboon just really is upset. And then for Zoro, I said that maybe Laboon killed all the Straw Hats. Laboon's the one who killed Kuina. And that is why Zoro wants to kill Laboon, right? So these are characters who are 100% giving it their all. Zoro has the bandana on. You know, Laboon wiped off the Straw Hat mark. They're just going in for the kill. And I'm going to be honest. I think Zoro would take the cake just because of the size difference. I feel like Zoro would just, you know, float in the air and just slice Laboon up. But we can't sleep on Laboon, brother. You know, a whale of that size actively trying to hurt you? Ooh. You know, I don't think Laboon's a whale that Zoro could just cut in half easily. You know, Laboon is like freaking 5 million metric tons of flesh, dude. And if Laboon has haki, my God, you know, that would be a dastardly battle. I feel like Laboon's best chance at beating Zoro is if Laboon eats the ship that Zoro's on, and if Zoro can't float endlessly, because we saw Zoro like use his swords and he slapped the air, and then like an air wave just brought him back up in Wano. So he could do that, but you know, how long can Zoro keep that up until he just falls in the water? That's a tough one. But yeah, I think I would give this a Zoro. Another reason why is because Laboon has like that mechanical inside where you can go in there and walk around. If Zoro gets inside Laboon and he's not eaten and is not dissolved in Laboon's gastric acid, then Zoro could just like inside of him just right. The only way Laboon would win, in my opinion, is if Laboon had a Majin Buu ability where inside of his body he can spawn mini Laboons that can fight Zoro. Like how Majin Buu spawned like mini Super Boos to fight Vegeta and Goku. Yeah. Unless Laboon can do that, I think Zoro takes this one. But I think this isn't like an easy feat. I don't think Laboon's just going to get chopped up. So next up I said, since Loki survived the fall to the underworld, would Ronya survive if she fell? A lot of people are saying she's dead. You know, hey, I didn't say anything. People are saying she's dead, man. The streets, man, they do not believe in Ronya. What can I say? And now for the last one. Yeah, we'll skip these other ones. I didn't realize how many polls I put up. You know, my voice is it's given away, man. I need some water. So I simply asked, how do you guys feel about Monkey D. Dragon thus far? And I made sure to comment this as the pinned comment. But I said, this poll is about the dragon of today. This is not about future dragon. This is not about his future stocks or powers or fights or, you know, narrative importance. This is just dragon as of today. 24% say they love him. 55% are very 50-50. They're saying, you know, like they don't like him, they don't hate him, he's just a character. But 21% just do not like him. Like he just has not done enough yet. Which is very fair, right? Because like I said, this is the dragon of today. We're not looking at future feats. And personally, you know, I do fall in the minority here. I'm not a big fan of Dragon. You know, ever since we saw him at Logtown, before we knew that he was like Dragon even, I didn't like his fit, dude. I don't like his fit. I don't like his design. Dragon's just a character that I personally don't enjoy. But I'm bringing in my Usopp mentality here. But even though I don't like Dragon, I still want the best for him. You know, I still think he's going to be one of the top dogs in the story. He's going to get great fights, great feats, a great backstory. He is going to be that guy. I think what would have made more people like Dragon, you know, what could have swayed this poll, is if Dragon had more history to him that we know of. Like, kind of like what Mihawk has, right? You know, Mihawk is another character. We haven't seen him really do much yet. But people like Mihawk because they know that they can scale him with Shanks. You know, he holds that title. We've heard about their fights in the past. You know, we have a lot of theories surrounding Mihawk maybe being a celestial dragon. And then he also has some crazy weird lore about being a marine hunter. Like, we have things to go off of, but for Dragon, we don't, right? We don't even know where to start, right? Luffy's mom, his relationship with Garp. We haven't even heard about a character that he fought in the past. I feel like if we got more from him like that, I think people would like him more. We'd have like less 50-50 and more love hims. And the thing is that I just wish we had like that one fight. Like, oh, you know, back in the past, you know, Dragon fought Kaido and, you know, it was an even battle. Like, if we had that, do you know how hype people would have been back in Wano when Luffy beat Kaido too? They'd be like, oh, like father, like son. You know, if that was such a high diff battle for Luffy, my God, Dragon's a monster. Or even if we had that for Akainu, because we know that Dragon was in the Marines. Brother, if we had Akainu saying, oh, yeah, you know, I remember fighting your dad back in the past. He was a real pain in the ass. Like, oh my God, that'd be nuts, dude. I just personally feel like we need a little bit more from him in that regard. But yeah, like I said, this is the Dragon of today. Dragon tomorrow is going to be nuts. I don't think there's a single person on Earth that doesn't think Dragon will be that guy. You know, I think the taste of Dragon for 1,000 chapters has really soured a lot of people's opinions on him. But we all know that one day he's going to do something great. You know, for Usopp, we're over here debating, right? But for Dragon, we know that one day he's going to be freaking crazy. This one says, Oda's hiding Dragon so he can properly power scale him into the story when he's ready. Oda's actually shown us how much work the rest have been putting in. Dragon's been getting shit done, but he is the boss-power of his group, so of course he has been saved for last. Dragon's backstory has so much potential. Luffy's mom, Dragon's devil fruit, past, history with the Kainu, knows more about the early Marines and founding of the Revolutionary Army, relationship with Garp and his haki. Bro is saving the world from slavery and government corruption, while also dealing with the occasional pirate. You can't get more noble than that. The lack of feats and off-screen actions don't reflect his character. The Dragon backstory is going to go hard. Oda's saving him for a reason. I love how this is all like future stuff, right? Oh, we're saving him, man. We're saving him. Like I said, that's pretty much the whole thing, right? Everybody knows that Dragon will be him. He will be him. Dragon's one of those characters that the One Piece community will cry about him because the story isn't being written the way they want it to be written. That's how I feel about Dragon. Because he's not written the way people want. I mean, yeah, but that just kind of boils down to like personal preference, right? It's just, that's all it is. His intro was goated. It wasn't a bad intro. I think it was kind of cool. I didn't like his dialogue as much. I mean, he just kind of like wandered around saying, a pirate, huh? Do it. Do it, man. One of my top 4 characters in One Piece. If you think characters like Mihawk and Akainu are strong, then Dragon is also top tier. Yep, that is the assumption. I love that there is still a character in the story that his element of the story is a mystery to him, and we literally know nothing about. I really dislike the face value of how everyone dislikes Dragon because he does nothing. Trust me, he will. You probably won't dislike him then. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, we all know, like I said, we all know Dragon is going to do something. His name is Dragon for a reason. He's been dragging and gooning for over 1,150 chapters. He's 50-50 until we see more of him. I just thought that was funny. The man who we've yet to see, bro, realistically speaking, you know Oda's going to cook with him well. Let him cook. If he's not the one attacking Marijois, the Dragon stocks are about to plummet like '08. Why would you be mad at Dragon when Oda is the one not drawing anything for him? These One Piece fans act like the characters are the ones that actually are doing these things. One of the only Pirate King level people in the planet. It's all jokes until we see Dragon piecing up true form Emu. I think the fact that he hasn't done anything yet is a testament to his discipline. Also, Oda is obviously saving him for a reason. His power is probably Pirate King level. I personally put him between Prime Beard and Prime Roger in terms of strength and bounty, because he was the world's most wanted criminal while Whitebeard was still alive. I think this is a mistranslation. I think he's like the most dangerous criminal because of who he is, because of the revs. I could be wrong about that, but I remember looking that up a while back. I feel like he's the most enigmatic person in the story. Obviously want to see him do things, but the longer we wait, the better it will be. So many untapped potential moments. Could've, would've, should've. I just want to see more. Yeah. See, like I said, it just boils down to people saying that they want to see more from Dragon. We haven't seen it yet. Everybody invests in Dragon stocks. I don't think there's a single person who doesn't. But yeah, I guess I should have just asked, like, personally, like, besides the feats and everything, like, how do you feel about Dragon? Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of revolutionaries in most stories, so for me, like, Dragon's always going to be sour, but I still want the best for him. You know, I'll still hype him up when he's there. I'll still love him when he does stuff on screen. But I feel like Dragon's one of those characters where, like, at the end of the story, I don't think he's going to be in my top 10 favorite characters. You know, I reserve those spots for the villains, man. And Dragon, he's too good. He's too good. Which is, of course, a testament on his character. But with that being said, though, y'all, let me know what you thought about all these polls down below. And thank you guys for participating in the polls, too, man. You know, like I said, I always say this, but I am just one guy. My opinions are just one guy's opinions, right? I'm just a fellow reader, man. So that is why I like holding these polls. Because we don't want to be trapped in an echo chamber with just me, myself, and I. We got to see what the general community typically thinks about these things, right? There's a vast world out there, and we're just one guy. We're just another piece to that puzzle. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching this all the way to the end. I really freaking appreciate it. And, yeah, I'll catch you guys when the next chapter drops. And also, we will be doing more of these polls as the days go on. So keep a lookout for that. We will probably do one of these videos pretty soon. I think like maybe once every 2 weeks. You know, I don't want to burn out on the polls, but yeah. You guys take care. Peace out.